welcome back to aRDists Podcast. We're doing something a little bit different today. But first, I just want to say thank you to everyone who watched the last episode about the Harry Potter portraits. That was kind of a fun topic to talk about, and I appreciate the conversations that I had privately with some of you, specifically my husband. He brought up the idea of Voldemort having a painting done of himself and what kind of ramifications that might have been. But yeah, he was just saying, like, if there was someone absolutely awful like Bellatrix who paints and they, you know, create these paintings of evil wizards, you know, what impact that would have on the world if they like basically lived after death and everything. Imagine like Voldemort as a portrait. But it also made me think, like, you know, being able to exist as a portrait, like he killed people and made Horcruxes when he could have just commissioned a painting and lived longer. But anyway, yeah, I could talk about Harry Potter for hours. So let's get into today's episode, like the actual topic. So for those of you who are listening to the audio version and not watching the video version, I'm in my office today rather than in my studio. And I wanted to share a little kind of side hustle I've been very, very slowly growing and share it. So that way, if there are other like illustrators or photographers, etc., and you're interested in this type of side hustle, you can kind of get a little insights from my experience. Or it might steer you away from it. I don't know. So yeah, I thought I'd show you behind the scenes of being a Canva contributor. For those of you who aren't aware, Canva is like an online graphic design tool. I think a lot of professional graphic designers, many of them will poo-poo it because it's, you know, giving people the idea that they're a graphic designer without having to actually learn the skills of being a graphic designer. What I think of as Canva, it's a tool to get things done quickly and make it look decent, but you still need some of the fundamental like design skills to make things look decent. Some people have good instinct for that, some people don't, but Canva's a tool. I like it, I enjoy it. And then behind the scenes of that, I am a Canva contributor, which is basically like I create graphic illustrations that are then uploaded and people can include them in their designs. You know, every time you add a graphic element or a photo or a video, one of the Canva contributors has made that and uploaded it, and they earn from their usage. This is just my perspective on being a Canva contributor, and one thing I'll say is I wish I had started this when I was in college, so I feel like I would have had more of a portfolio built up by now, but then again, I maybe wouldn't have even had much time for it anyway. It's still like if you have some extra time and you're, you know, quick with illustrations or good with photography, videography, this might be a good side hustle to start freshman year. So there are a couple reasons why I like this particular side hustle. So I don't have to interact with anyone, which is an introvert's dream. I get to decide what to create or draw with little restriction, though there are guidelines that you have to follow. Obviously, they can't be just crap quality because otherwise they're going to get rejected when you upload them. It is a passive sort of income source. So once I create it, I can earn for as long as it's uploaded on the site. The downsides to the side hustle is that it is very slow to earn. So it took me 3 years to steadily earn between $30 to $60 a month. So that's the other downside. It's not a huge source of income. The other downside is that it can take a while to get items approved and then get them found and then people start using them. And then there's also variation in the amount paid per use depending on what site you use. So if you decide to sell on, you know, upload them to Canva, Shutterstock, other sites, there might be some variation in how much you get paid. And there's no consistency, you know, in the sense that it's not the same every month. I'm going to show you some of my earnings over the past 3 years, so that way you can kind of get an idea of what to expect if you pursue this or something similar. As far as like, I'll go back to this. I wrote myself some notes, and so I apologize. I'm like reading from that. I hate it when I read straight from the computer, but let's go into my stats and earnings and such. Oh, actually, I'll show you my portfolio first, so that way you can get an idea of like what I create, and maybe that'll spark some ideas for you. Let me switch over here. If you're a Canva contributor, and the thing I want to say, which I should have said first, is that the contributor program is currently closed to new contributors. I don't know if and when they're going to open it back up again, but you can, I believe, still sign up as a template creator. On the Canva homepage, there is the Creator Hub. So that's what I'm a part of, the Canva creators, I guess. I'm an element creator, and so what I primarily create is, like I said, graphic elements. And so I can go here to to my items, and this shows all of my illustrations that I've done. So I think I have about 60 currently uploaded, and most of them are science related illustrations. So molecules, anatomy. I did some like pattern stuff, but those don't really get a whole lot of uses because there's already like a ton of patterns and stuff on there. But I have found that science illustrations have been very used quite a bit. So for example, I'll just click on, so you can also, I'm sorting just by which ones have been approved. So for those of you who are listening, I'm just scrolling through. I have, like I said, I have about 60 or so graphics currently. I have an ATP molecule. There's a couple different versions of it where it's like sketchy. Where's the preview for it? There we go, preview. So it's kind of like the sketchy style of ATP, and then over here on the right, it's got a bunch of keywords, so that way it can get found. So when someone's searching in a design, they want to, look up ATP, they can just type in ATP and this illustration should come up. It's, SEO within Canva. Some of the search terms that I have attached to this particular image are ATP, ATP molecule, adenosine triphosphate, energy molecule, molecular model, and then sometimes they have like guidelines and recommendations on what keywords to include. So for example, this is flat, outline, and then I put in the molecular formula for it, just in case somebody searches for that. Skeletal formula, molecule bonds, bonding, molecular geometry. So that way it pops up for a variety of uses. And let's see another example. I want to say vitamin C has been my most popular download. So this is just, again, an outline illustration, but it's, people use it for presentations all the time. It's a useful graphic to have. Vitamin C, ascorbic acid, ascorbate, dehydroascorbate, DHA, hydrophilic molecule, water-soluble vitamins, so just different things that it might pop up for. So I can go to Element Creator and go to Dashboard, and this is where you'll see how many applies and how many exports you've had for the month. So for this month, March, and it's, I think, around 7 days behind. It takes a little while to aggregate the data. So applies are how many times your design has been applied, so put into a design, and then exports is what you care about as far as like money wise. When someone exports a design, they are basically like paying for the licensing for that design element. So applies, it's like somebody might put one of your graphics in one of their designs, but they might not export it. So you're only going to get paid for exports. So exports this month, let's look at the last 6 months. So it kind of ebbs and flows, and you'll see each of these peaks and valleys. The valleys are weekends. So people are not on Canva as much on the weekends. Surprise, surprise. So this is a look at last year. I had 109,158 exports. And you can see from January to around mid-August to the beginning of September, things were pretty similar. And then end of September, then October, November, December, things jumped up by about double. And that was when a chunk of new elements that I uploaded finally started getting seen in the algorithm. So they finally started getting used. People started searching for them, and they started getting used a lot more. So my stats went from between 100 to 300 on average to 200, 300 up to like 600, 700 sometimes. I think the highest I had was 905 on one day. That was a lot. So you can see that, I only have 60 elements. If I were to build my portfolio up to a couple hundred elements, that could exponentially increase my earnings. Speaking of earnings, let's jump over to my earnings tab. So far this year, I've earned $37.34 in January. Like I said, this isn't a like hugely lucrative side hustle. However, if you upload these elements to multiple sites and you start early and you're consistent with it and you continually build your portfolio, it could potentially be a good, side earner. So let me look at last year, because this will give us an idea of some of the ebbs and flows with seasons too. So most of my elements are science elements. I can't tell if Ryan's home or the cat is making noise. I don't know. Okay. So anyway, there are ebbs and flows in the amount of downloads I have. So you can see this with the earnings here. So January is low, February starts to increase, March, April, May, and then June, July, August, it dips, and then September, October, November. And my assumption is that because they're mostly science elements, they probably are related to the academic calendar, like the school year. I'm assuming like professors, students, you know, people in academia are using these elements during those times. There's a few ways to earn within Canva. So they have royalty earnings, and that's like how often your elements are used. You get an earning from the people who pay for Canva Pro. So based on how many downloads you have, how many other people had downloads, and what the Canva Pro earnings were, you get a cut of those earnings. And so for all of last year, my royalty earnings were $496.02. They recently added an AI feature, and so we had the option to opt in to have our elements used as part of like the AI training. I opted in. I wanted to see how much I could earn from it, and you can always opt out. So I have mixed feelings about AI. However, I'm doing like mostly medical illustrations, like science illustrations, and so if AI is being used to, you know, generate molecule illustrations, there's a chance that it's not particularly accurate. Like the AI can't even get hands right. I don't think they're going to get like the molecular structure of vitamin B12 right, for example. So I'm not really worried about there being I don't know, maybe that's me being naive. But I just think that the accuracy of my illustrations is greater than that of AI. So I think there's still a need for what I'm offering. And if I can earn a little from the AI training, whatever. I can, like I said, I can always opt out later. So I earned $9.60 from what they call as the Magic Creator payment. So the Magic Creator is just part of the AI training. So again, for all of last year, $9.60. And that I believe included like a one-time bonus and like the first time, you know, them starting it. And it was only like last couple months of the year, if that. This next opportunity to earn is through bonuses. So it says these earnings are for opportunities like campaigns and boosted earnings. I haven't earned any bonuses. Not sure that I will, but it's there. So I don't have many insights on that. Now, the individual sales, that is the last earning opportunity, is for people who aren't paying for Canva Pro. So they're just paying for the use of that individual element for that one download. And so you might have a few sales from that. This accumulated to $12.91 for the year. For one download of this particular illustration, it was for this phospholipid membrane. For one use of that was 43 cents. So like I said, individual sales, not a huge earner. The main bulk of your earning is going to be through royalty earnings. So that's a really quick overview of the earnings. That's what it was for 2023. And then switching over to my overall earnings. So this graph here shows my earnings overall over the past 3 years. So the first time I earned any income was 16 cents back in April of 2021. So like I said, started off really small and it's grown pretty consistently throughout 2023. You can see it was between like 28.91 was the lowest and 58.19 was the highest. So, you know, between 30 and 60 bucks. Like I said, it's not a huge money maker. However, you know, we'll see where it goes. This graph here, you can see the comparison of the years. So, the blue year, way down here, I didn't even see that. The blue year was the very first year, 2021. Didn't start to really see anything like significant or substantial. I wouldn't even call it substantial until the end of that year. And then the following year started to see a little bit more. Each year it's grown a little bit. So we'll see what 2024 looks like. And hopefully, you know, I'll continue adding to my portfolio. You know, the more elements that I offer, the more potential there is for downloads. There's one other thing that I wanted to show you. It was in my metrics. So this is a little overwhelming to look at, but I have been tracking since September of last year. Every week or every other week, depending on if I have time for it, I go through every single element and I note down how many applies and how many exports that element has had. And these ones in bold, for example, are the ones with the highest exports. So for example, between September 9th and September 22nd, the liposome phospholipid membrane had 1,100 139 exports. So that's one of my more popular elements. So the other thing I wanted to show you is how you can see like overall how many exports you've had and what your most popular designs are. So you just come into Element Creator Dashboard, come down here to all time, and then you can sort lowest to highest. Exports applies. You can also sort by when it was published. So like when you uploaded it. And so I can see my vitamin C molecule has had 33,232 exports. And then the liposome phospholipid bilayer has had 22,000, etc. And then you can see just in descending order of popularity. And so what I like to do is go into Canva and then I'll search the elements. And you can do this for, you know, if you do photography, if you do videography, if you create audio, you can search things. So an element that I'm working on now that I'm going to be uploading soon is nephron. So if I look at nephron, there's not a lot in the way of nephrons. There's some like abstract kidneys, but as far as like an actual nephron illustration, you know, you've got this and there's not a whole lot else showing up. So that's something that I wanted to like fill a gap there. Or the other thing is, you know, you can search, I'll type in human kidney and view this. So, you know, there's a line drawing, there's this kind of like shiny glossy version, there's this really simplified version, there's a cross section, there's another cross section that's kind of cartoony. You can kind of look at what styles are available, and if there's, you know, a particular illustration style where, you know, there's a lack of that, that's a gap you can fill as well. So yeah, that is just a quick overview of Canva contributors. And like I said, there's other sites that you can, you know, upload your elements to. The only one that I have experience using is Shutterstock, and I only just started uploading this year, or like late last year. So relatively recently. I've only earned, I think, $4. So I don't know if uploading to Shutterstock will be worthwhile in the long run. It might just be my graphics aren't as, you know, useful on that platform. But there's lots of other platforms that you can, you know, check out and see, you know, if you are interested in this sort of thing, you know, like iStock, Pixabay, there's all sorts of different things. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to share today. Let me know if you have any questions about it, or if you want a video going into more detail about my experience or earnings as a Canva contributor, and let me know what specifically you would want to know. And then the last thing I just want to say is how I feel like if this was something that you wanted to do, how you can make it work is first going into it kind of knowing that it's going to be slow growth, most likely, unless you hit like a really like in-demand niche. Go into it kind of planning to build up a large portfolio and optimize each of those items for search. So like I said, you know, with the human kidney, for example, you know, what other things might people search for? Might they be looking for adrenal gland specifically, or do they want to see a specific cross section of the kidney? Different things. Like, so for example, I just searched adrenal gland and one of my illustrations popped up for the kidney and the adrenal gland. So yeah, and this was just like a really simple, basic line drawing, but obviously there's more that could be done. What else? So go into it knowing it's going to be slow growth, build up a large portfolio and optimize each of your items for, you know, search, find a niche and fill the gaps that you see. And, you know, don't try to fit in. You want your items to stand out. So even like a saturated niche can have potential if your style stands out and is something that is not being covered. You can also ask your audience what they want more of. So, you know, if something's lacking, like I know the trouble that I've been having with this particular niche, and I'm going to show you in a second. So dietitian, when you search dietitian, it's always like white lab coat, fruit, food. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it gets the point across, but also like there could be more here. Like there's very cartoony looking dietitians. So there's potential there. If you do photography and you can get model releases and stuff, you can, you know, take photos of, you know, dietitians in your element and do that. But yeah, I'm not super confident with my ability to draw cartoon people. My style of illustration is suitable more for, you know, the molecules and the anatomy that I've been drawing, but I'm not super confident with my ability to make simplified human faces, like cartoon faces or, you know, non-realistic faces. I can't not put detail into it, and I just don't have time for details, so it's like a skill that I need to learn. But I do see a need for more, you know, illustrations of dietitians. Then my last tip is to, you know, search the elements and see what's missing and make yourself a list and just kind of go through that. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for today. The last thing I wanted to mention is that there is a free symposium going on later this month hosted by Elise Helenko from Snap Studio. I'm not affiliated with the event. I just want to pass along the info in case you hadn't heard about it yet. So let me read a little bit from the email that I had received. So this free symposium aims to provide RDs and nutrition experts with the tools, resources, and inspiration needed to elevate their content creation skills and thrive in today's dynamic digital landscape. So it's a virtual conference for RDs, nutrition experts, and students. It's a 90-minute fully online workshop, an event sponsored by Egg Farmers of Ontario, and its aim is to help you gain skills and inspiration to create more impactful and aesthetically captivating content. So that's going on March 25th from 6 until 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'll put the registration link in the comments and the, you know, episode description so you can register if you're interested. Again, I'm not affiliated with the event, though I will be attending. I attended last year and it was, you know, worth going to. And again, the registration is free. I'll put the link down below. You can check it out if you're interested. And with that, if you're interested in getting into stock imagery or you're considering it, leave a like on this video and leave me a comment letting me know kind of what you're considering. I'd love to know. Yeah, that's all for now. I'll see you next time. Bye.